Welcome you all for direct taxation class. Hope all of you remember that in the previous class we had a discussion on what are the topics or the syllabus you will be studying in this subject, direct taxation. So code is 18 MBA FM 303. So you will be reading the direct taxation aspects in this subject. So today's session, what are the contents I will be discussing? Those are introduction, objectives of tax, taxation in India, Taxation Act 1961, Scope of Income Tax Act 1961, income tax. So these are the contents what I will be discussing today in this session. Before going to the content or before going to the session's content, I would like to discuss regarding the tax in a general view or a general perspective as an individual or as a common man what we know about tax. So as an individual, we know that tax is the payment what we will be making to the government for whatever the income we get. So hope you all remember that we come across here there are 5 heads of income as an individual what we can earn. That is income from salary, income from house property, profit and gains of business or profession, income from other sources, income from capital gain. So these are the 5 sources where as an individual we will be getting the income. So for whatever the income we generate out of these 5 heads, we need to pay to the government as a tax, right? So as a common individual, what I'll assess or I'll feel is I have to pay the tax for the government for whatever the revenue I generate out of these 5 heads. But as a common man, I'll not be knowing what are these 5 heads, right? So where all these 5 heads are associated with their own legal aspects which will be guided by the tax authorities, right? So this is as an individual I will be paying the tax, so that is end of the thing. So now I will move on to the session contents. One thing is introduction. Introduction in the sense regarding the tax. So what do you mean by tax over here? It is a compulsory payment what we will be making to the government. So where we will not be getting any direct benefit out of this. As an individual, I am paying the tax to the government. So where I won't get any direct benefit from the government for whatever the tax I pay. So where this tax, whatever I am paying to the government, that will be a source of income for the government. So where it will be fulfilling its public expenditures in the country which will be made by the government. So here, which are the authorities that will be collecting the tax over here? So central government, state government and sometimes local government will also be playing a role of an authority over collecting the tax. So this is what introduction of your tax means in terms of your legal aspects. Next thing is I will be moving on to the objectives. So what objectives? Objectives of tax. So what are the objectives of tax? So here first objective is reduce the gap. So what do you mean by this? Reduce the gap. Reduce the gap between rich and poor. So what do you understand out of this? So here rich and poor, how it will be reducing the gap? Anywhere as a common man. It might be a common man, it might be a businessman, it might be a politician, it might be any individual. For each and every person, whatever the tax means tax rules and regulations are there, that will be common. So where all of us are treated as one. So based on that it says that reducing the gap between rich and poor. Next thing, second objective is this tax will be enabling the government to maintain the law and order. So means what? For the government to protect the country or to safeguard the country or for the security purpose, they need the fund to maintain the law and order in the country. So to maintain the law and order, they have to generate some revenue over from the country, where it will be the revenue generated through whatever the taxes we pay, that will be helping the government to maintain the law and order, where that will be given to the army people or the security, in terms of for security aspects they will be using the money. Like this, it will be helping the government to maintain the law and order. Next objective is, it will be helping to provide the infrastructure facilities. So what do you mean by this? So through whatever the taxes we are paying, we are getting the infrastructure facilities that is being provided by the government. For example, whatever the road you might be seeing, whatever the transportation facilities, whatever it might be railways, it might be airways, anything like that, which are provided by the government, will as an infrastructure facility for the benefit of the citizens. So this how, where whatever the tax amount we are paying, that will be used for the infrastructure facility provided by the government to the citizens. Next thing is, it provides employment opportunity. So here it provides employment opportunity in the sense, as they have to maintain book of accounts, records, and they have to collect the taxes, they have to impose the taxes. Like this, n number of activities will be involved where they require human resource. When there is a requirement of human resource, this will be creating an employment opportunity for individuals. So we say that it provides an employment opportunity. Next thing is, it will be helping to achieve socio-economic growth. So what do you mean by this socio-economic growth? So based on this income tax, whatever we pay, out of this, it will be benefiting the society. Through that, it also contributes for the economic development of the country. So this is how it will be helping the nation. So next thing is, I will be moving on to tax. So what do you mean by tax? Again, it will be a kind of repetition from the introductory part. So as I earlier said, it is a compulsory payment. So here it is a compulsory financial charge that will be imposed on the individuals. Means it will be imposed on the individuals, where the governmental organizations will impose that through the orders. For example, if you are a salaried person, where they say that based on your salary income, whatever you are getting, you need to pay the tax to the government. So what the government is doing here, it is imposing us to pay the tax. So this is how they generate income towards the government. So through this, it is a kind of a fund that will be helping the government to spend for the public expenditures. If in case any individual fail to pay the tax, so or resist to pay the tax, he will be imposed with a law where he will be held punishable for not making the tax payment. So this is how, to sum up this, what do you mean by tax is, where, as I say, it is a compulsory financial charge that will be imposed on a individual, where he need to make a payment towards the government as a tax based on the orders. Next thing is, I will move on to taxation. So what do you mean by taxation? Now you are clear with what is tax. Taxation in the sense, here it is a practice what we make here. For example, government will be collecting the taxes from individuals. It might be individuals, it might be business entity, it might be corporate, anybody. So what they are doing, they are collecting the taxes, where it will be two different forms. For us, in case if they are collecting the tax from an individual, it will be said as an income from salary. If they are collecting any out of any selling and buying of your capital goods or capital assets, at that point of time they will be saying it as income from capital gain. Or if any individual is doing a business, or if he is running with his profession, so at that point of time whatever the revenue he gets, for that he need to pay the tax. That is one thing. Or any income from other sources, he need to pay the tax. Like this, there are different heads where the organizations have to pay the tax. So for which government will be imposing. So what government is doing here? It is having a practice of collecting the taxes from the individuals through various heads of income. So this is what your taxation means, where and also it will be helping for the welfare facilities where we come across. It might be park, it might be public libraries, it might be the transportation like railways, anything for that. So where all these tax aspect what is collected, that will be utilized. So taxation in the sense, it is a practice what it makes where the government will be collecting the taxes. Next thing is moving on to taxation in India. So what do you mean by this? Taxation in India. As we know that every country has their own taxation system, right? So taxation system, it might be different in US, it might be different in UK, it might be different in Japan, it might like that. Each country will be having their own taxation systems, right? So as similar to that, even in our country, that is even in India, we have the taxation system how it is. So where here the taxation in India, it is divided into two taxes, where it is divided into two taxes. One is direct tax, another one is indirect tax. So there are two classifications, as I earlier said. One is direct tax, another one is indirect tax. So what do you mean by direct tax? So as the term itself suggests that it is a direct, means it will be charged on the income what earned by an individual or earned by a corporate entity. Means where if I am working somewhere, I will be earning an income. So through which I will be paying the tax. So this is said as your direct taxes. So where it is directly levied on an individual, where he is directly paying the tax for the government. So this is direct taxes. Next thing, moving on to indirect taxes. So what do you mean by this indirect taxes? So as the term says, indirect. So what happened in direct taxation? Direct tax, it was you are directly paying for the government. So but here it is indirect tax. So how will an individual pay indirect tax? For example, any sales, any services that is rendered will be incurring a cost. So where that cost will be inclusive of various taxes. So this is what you will be paying the tax indirectly. So where the burden of this indirect tax will be on the seller. For example, if I am a seller of some product, for example, if I will sell this duster. If I am selling this duster, where I will be generating a revenue out of it. So where as a purchaser you have paid the amount and purchased this, where this also includes the tax, where on behalf of that purchaser I will be collecting the tax and paying it to the government. So this is what indirect tax. So how? Where an individual is not directly connected in making the payment of tax. So it is said as indirect tax. So in Indian taxation system, the tax is classified into direct tax and indirect tax. Next thing is, which are the authorities that will be imposing the taxes? As I earlier quoted, there are three authorities. What are those? One is central government, another one is state government, and other thing is local government or local authorities, which is also said as your municipalities and local governments. These are the three authorities who will be imposing the tax on the individuals. Either it might be direct tax or either it might be indirect taxes. So where there are major central taxes which will be imposed in the country. So central taxes in the sense where the central government will be imposing the tax. Which are those? One is income tax. Next thing is CGST, that is Central Goods and Services Tax. Next thing is IGST, that is Integrated Goods and Services Tax. Next thing is custom duty. So these are the taxes which are imposed by the central government. So we say that major central taxes. Next thing is major state taxes, means what are the taxes that will be imposed by the state government. So that is state goods and services tax as well as stamp duty and registration duty. These are the taxes that is imposed by the state government. So in total, where Indian taxation system, based on this, it is been classified or divided into two types. One is direct tax, another one is indirect tax. So based on this, our Indian taxation system will be associated with, or it will be imposing the taxes on individuals, corporates, anything like that. Next thing is moving on to Income Tax Act 1961. So what is this Income Tax Act 1961? So as we know, there are various acts that is involved with various aspects related to any other activities also. Similarly, the income tax is also associated in the government. So where this act, what it does? The act major thing, it will be levying the tax, in the sense it will impose the tax. Next thing is administrate. So administration aspect will be taken care. Afterwards it will collect and also it will recover. So based on this, what we can say, Income Tax Act is an act where it will levy, it will administrate, it will collect and recover the income tax in India. So which was established or which came into force from April 1st, 1962. One thing. Next thing is, here there are also separate provisions or other provisions which are related to any advance payment of your tax or any late payment of your tax. For example, if you are paying your tax in advance, so at that time there are separate provisions that will be imposing the taxes or calculating the taxes. That is one thing. Next thing is, sometimes you will not receive the income in advance, so but you need to pay the tax. So at that point of time, how it will be assessed, that is different aspect will be assessed. So like this, your Income Tax Act will be working upon, where it will impose the tax, it will look into administration aspects, it will be collecting and also it will be recovering. This is what Income Tax Act 1961 in brief. Next thing is, I will move on to scope of Income Tax Act 1961. So what do you mean by scope of income tax? Scope of income tax, in the sense the purview of income tax, how it will be involved, means who are the persons which will be involved here. So as I earlier said, we come across 5 heads of income. Which are those? One is income from salary, income from house property, income from capital gain, income from business or profession, income from other sources. So these are the 5 heads of income what we get. So what will be the purview here? All the 5 heads of income are the purview for an individual. Means if I am an individual, I have a right to earn through all these 5 heads of income. So based on this, where there should be some legal aspects for which the IT Act of 1961 under section 5 says that what is the scope of total income. As I said, all these 5 heads will be helping an individual to generate the income. These 5 heads of income in total, they are said as total income. So where the scope of total income means what? As an individual, so based on the residential status of an individual or of a person, the tax will be imposed. So whether I am a resident or whether I am a not ordinarily resident or whether I am a non-resident, based on these 3 aspects of residential status, the scope of the total income will be determined, which will be associated with your scope of Income Tax Act 1961. Next thing is, I will move on to income tax. So what do you mean by this income tax? So where, as earlier we have discussed, tax it might be, taxation it might be. So here whatever the income I will be getting, for that I will be making the tax. So where I say that income tax, through for the income what I get. It is also said as direct tax. So where directly as an individual I am paying the tax for the government for whatever the income I get. So this direct tax is collected from the central government, where the authority associated with this central government collection of taxes are CBDT, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes. So this authority will be taking care of this direct tax or direct income whatever as an individual we generate. So these are the session contents whatever we discussed, that is, one is introduction we came across, objectives of tax, taxation in India, Income Tax Act 1961, scope of Income Tax Act 1961 and income tax. So based on all these aspects, so basically now in brief we know what is tax or direct taxation it is all about. So hope all of you have understood this. Thank you.